The progressive whitewash is to take all the horrible things that were done and say, America did this, and America did that, or the South did this, or the South did that. No, America didn't do it, you did. So the Democratic Party, having poisoned the wells, is now pretending to show up as the water commissioner.
So let me just quickly ask. This is interesting.
No, I got to answer. Okay. So, Dinesh, this is part of the reason I want to do this, because just like with Ann Coulter last year, I really want to know if you're on the level or not.
All right.
That's what I'm curious about. Because do you not know about the 1964 Civil Rights Act? Do you not know that the Democratic Party, led by Lyndon Johnson at the time, risked losing the South for decades, which they did, to pass the Civil Rights Act, then the Voting Rights Act, and that Nixon proudly took on the Southern strategy, which was now admitted by two different chairs of the RNC to be a racist strategy to get racist whites. And that's why now the Democratic Party, which used to be conservative, and the Republican Party used to be liberal under Abraham Lincoln, have flipped, and the Democratic Party is liberal, and the Republicans are conservative. So, hold on, and I'm not anywhere near done. So you say FDR and Mussolini said some nice things about each other like decades earlier. I don't know if you know this, they later went to war against one another. So
and after
you have
the war,
a history of telling only half the story in a preposterous, comical way.
Okay. All right. I think we're getting to the heart of the issue here, so if you don't mind, let's engage a little bit about it, okay?
Oh, I love it, yeah. Let's
All right.
Let me just add one thing where I think you both agree on, which is the Republican Party used to be the progressive party in America. I don't think that's a secret. I mean, that's...
Well, the Republican Party was the champion of emancipation, anti-segregation, anti-lynching laws, and so on. Right, I want to talk about the Civil Rights Act.
So you liked them when they were progressive?
No, I wouldn't say that's progressive because... No.
I'm pretty sure that's progressive.
No. The progressives of the time were into social engineering, eugenics, forced sterilization. So this is a disguise. The progressives later claimed the mantle. All right.
And freeing the slaves, just as an FYI.
The progressives freed the slaves.
Progressives wanted to free the slaves. They were in the Republican Party. Yes.
No, they were not. The term progressive was invented in the 20th century.
Conservatives liked the way things are. They wanted to keep their tradition and
so was Abraham Lincoln a Republican?
He was a Republican and a progressive. I know it's hard for you to understand.
Yeah.
The parties switched. That's what he's asking you. No one else in the country disputes that other than you.
No, I do dispute it. Let me ask you this question. You mentioned the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Did more Republicans in proportion or more Democrats vote for the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Answer yes. Which one? Which party voted in greater proportion for the Civil Rights Act of 1964?
Great, let's do it.
Which one?
All right.
Do you know?
So I believe that the guy who pushed for the Civil Rights Act was a guy named Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was most clearly a Democrat. And at that point, the Democratic Party had a lot of racist conservatives in it. It's true. What led to the transition was the 1964 Civil Rights Act, where those Democratic racists decided, man, I love the Republican Party. I think I should go there. And for you to say, at that moment in history, that's the whole point, Dinesh.
Okay.
That's when they switched.
All right.
That's when all the racists went to your party.
Okay. Yeah. So I take it that this is a backhanded admission that far more Republicans proportionally voted for the Civil Rights Act than Democrats, right? Okay, you admit it. You try to camouflage it, but you admit it. Now, you say that that's when they switched. So let me ask you this. We had the Voting Rights Act in 1965 and the Fair Housing Bill in 1968. Let's take the Fair Housing Bill. Did more Republicans or more Democrats proportionally vote for the Fair Housing Bill? Which one?
So, Dinesh, let me try let's try this one more time. So, Republicans were more progressive. They were the progressive party, so they would push for things that were progressive until those events in that exact time period, Dinesh. And then a lot of them thought, under Nixon, and he wasn't president yet, and when he ran, he said, hey, I got a great idea. Let's get all those racist Democrats to join the Republican Party. Let's run on racism. And you know what they did? They then went on a campaign through Nixon to bring all the racists in the Republican Party, which I'm not admitting. The head of the Republican National Committee, two different heads of it, came out and gave a speech and said, yes, we transitioned into racist, and that was our strategy.
Really?
You to try to deny that is insanity.
Is it really? Let me ask you
think the Democrats are more racist now? By the way,
No,
let me give you one piece of context. I got to give you context.
I just want to
Dinesh,
show.
You wrote a book saying that slavery wasn't about race in this country. You wrote a book where you said black people should give white people reparations for liberating them.
No, I did say that slavery in America did not start out in racial terms. The people tried to enslave the American Indians, lots of blacks owned slaves. So this is part of the real complexity of our history. But I noticed that when we're talking, you raised...
Racism was a real mixed bag. I remember all those white folks being owned by black people. See, that's exactly what I'm going to.
The black slave owners owned black slaves.
On purpose, Dinesh. You do it on purpose. You say, oh, for a while we tried to enslave the Native Americans, so we'll say that slavery wasn't about racism. Do you see how that you're obviously misdirecting people, and you're doing it on purpose? It's not like white people were slaves. The overwhelming majority of slavery was black people enslaved. Why can't you admit the most obvious things? Because you have a political agenda.
No. Let's pivot back to what you were saying earlier about corruption. Hillary, Trump. Seems to me that you bashed Hillary. Now you're trying to back off a little bit. Are you saying that Trump, an unknown quantity, is more dangerous than a known crook?
So, first of all, Dinesh, you keep calling her a crook, but you just got out of jail. Why
don't you should let's give Dinesh a second. Why don't you tell us?
I agree.
So this is an important point.
I agree.
Give it a second. So
I agree.
Just explain to us what exactly happened with that.
Right. Give me a moment to say what happened.
He's going to need a moment.
I mentioned earlier I was an immigrant. It's a peculiarity of the immigration process that you leave your country and you kind of walk on this tightrope between two buildings. You leave India, you come to America, and in some point you're in no man's land. You don't belong over here, you don't belong over there. When I landed as a freshman at Dartmouth, I made a small group of friends, about 8 of us, and we became, in a sense, family. We became my surrogate family in the United States. Fast forward 25 years. One member of this group was running for the U.S. Senate in New York. And so she was imploring me in 10 different ways to help her campaign. And I was running around promoting my movie and doing this and speaking. I couldn't do it. So I felt really bad. And so what I did was I told 2 of my friends, give her $10,000 and I will reimburse you. This is not allowed under the campaign finance laws. I exceeded the campaign finance laws. Now, no American in our history has ever gone to prison for doing what I did. Why? Because the campaign finance laws are about corruption. And corruption means you're trying to buy favors. You're telling the candidate, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. I didn't even tell the candidate. She didn't even know I did this for her. And I was doing it to help a friend. So this is a really good example of how Cenk, he knows Hillary is a crook. He knows she buys and sells favors. He knows that the Clintons would sell pardons to people who would give them hundreds of millions of dollars in exchange. There's no comparison between that and my case. But he's using my case to cover for his gal.
Okay. All right. As you might suspect, I love this topic. So I'm not covering for Hillary Clinton at all. I just spent, a year telling you everything that's wrong with Hillary Clinton. And I get to do that because I didn't spend time in jail for corruption. I
didn't spend time in jail for corruption
but
either.
You did.
No, I didn't.
You did.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No. There is actually a charge called corruption. I wasn't even charged with corruption.
What were you charged with?
I was merely charged with exceeding the campaign finance law.
Yes, breaking the campaign finance laws. By the way,
this.
which takes a special kind of genius in an era where we've legalized bribery to go to jail for not being able to figure that out.
That's right. And what does that tell you? The fact
You didn't do it very well. That's what it
right.
tells
The
me.
fact that I do something unbelievably stupid, right?
Agreed.
And the fact that the Obama administration puts dozens of FBI agents on me, goes through my tax returns, reads all my books, this suggests that this is not a simple matter of this guy did something super dumb. People who do super dumb things without trying to be corrupt don't go into the lockup. You know this.
So
let me ask you
you
this.
have all these conspiracy theories, but you know who else has a dozen FBI agents pursuing her? Hillary Clinton. So it's not like the Obama team's like, no, not Hillary. They have a dozen FBI agents pursuing her as they pursued you. So where's the bias? There's no bias. That is their nominee.
All right.
You should give them credit. You say right here on the record, President Obama is incredibly fair.
Let me ask you this. Well, if my crimes were proportionate to Hillary, it would be fair.
Look. I don't like that she set up a private server in her house, and I'm worried about that. But you clearly broke the laws. You admit you broke the laws. That's why you went to jail. She never went to jail.
Let me ask you this.
You're the worst person in America to criticize her for being corrupt. I mean, you literally broke the laws regarding corruption.
Cenk. All right.
And you made a whole movie about it. That's
All right.
what's amazing.
Can you name any person in American history who has given 20 grand over the campaign finance limit and served 1 day in the lockup?
But Dinesh,
Can you?
did it.
Can you?
Did it.
All right.
Did it. So I'm not an expert on the campaign finance crooks of American history.
All right.
I do know one, and he's on the stage with me.
Right. Okay. All right. There's a guy. Let me make you a little more expert on this. There's a guy named Chatwal, Asian Indian guy. We Asian Indians appear to specialize in the campaign finance violation area. In any event, this dude gave 180,000. Let me finish. 180,000 in straw donations to Hillary Clinton and a whole group of Democratic candidates. His case came up the same time as mine. No prison, no confinement. He got a fine. He got community service. Now, here's my point. You keep saying you did it. But anybody who champions justice knows that justice isn't just a matter of did you do it. It's a matter of does the penalty fit the crime? Do other guys who did the same thing get the same penalty? That's the America. You talk about equality. Let's have some equality of opportunity.
Let me just say one last thing about this. So Dinesh, that's exactly what we root for. So if you've got people who are corrupt, that's exactly what I fight against. So, and I don't just fight against you. I fight against Democrats. I fight against Republicans who are corrupt. If it was up to me, we would make that bribery illegal again. Not just his bribery, but the bribery where you do campaign donations, and I'd put them all in jail. Okay, but
well, I didn't do bribery. Just to correct you.
Okay, well,
you think I did?
Yeah, when you go to pay someone money that they're not supposed to be paid against the law.
What is the definition of bribery?
Okay, so let me finish my point, Dinesh. Look, dude, you spent 8 months in jail. You're still arguing it. You're on probation right now. Is there a probation officer?
Bribery means in exchange for favors. Have you ever heard of a bribe with nothing in return? Ever heard of such a bribe?
You claim there's nothing in return.
You
claim there's nothing
I don't
in return,
claim that.
But
the
a
government
court decided that you were guilty and put you in prison for 8 months.
The government didn't accuse me of any
bribery.
bribery.
So to finish my point, before Dinesh went into prison, he said that Mexican immigrants, unlike immigrants who travel for a far distance like he did or I did, were, quote, parasitic. But since then, he has done community service as part of his sentence. And come to find out, oh my God, not all Mexican immigrants are parasitic. So Dinesh, I want to give you credit for that. You've got a nice open mind about us. Tell us about that experience where you began to see that maybe not everyone from a certain race might be parasitic.
Well, as you might imagine, this is the Cenk version of what I said, and you can rely on it being a fast and loose summary of the facts. The truth of it is,
look it up.
Historically, immigrants came to this country when there was no safety net, when there were no benefits to be had. They came out of necessity, they couldn't go back, and they had to make it. In other words, there were ladders of opportunity, but there was no a rope that they could hang on to and have other people pull them up. What makes our situation different today is that we now have a massive welfare state. by the way, a welfare state set up by Americans for Americans. A social contract is among the citizens who are already here. There is no automatic right of someone who is not a citizen to claim benefits that Americans have collectively pooled for themselves. So, my point is America should have a generous immigration policy that attracts immigrants of the first stripe. If an immigrant is coming here to sit in a hammock and get free education, free health care, free this, free that, then stay home. Then stay home.
So just to close the point here, so
First stripe? Am I first stripe? I feel good about that, I guess.
So Cenk, as we think about this general election, are you going to be endorsing any of the candidates, or are you going to write in some?